Well, that was a wildly entertaining football game, even if it did come up a hair short, let's be honest about it.
Good morning, Mully. Welcome back. Yes, on this Monday morning, you are still moved by what we watched, by what America saw. The Bears in what really looked like a NFC Championship game preview. It could be that in that context because both teams looked Super Bowl worthy. Bears fell just one play short. And disappointing, yes, and yet encouraging in the same breath because you can look at the Bears and feel like they just ran out of time. They had one split second, had Caleb Williams just made that throw, and Jade Walker was almost the hero again.
Yes.
And it was so easy to say, oh, so close, so far away. But you know what? They are the NFC North champs. They took the North over the weekend before kickoff. Remarkable season, and it continues. And who knows how far it could go.
Yeah, and the drama surrounding that game was incredible. I'm talking about who's in, who's out, who's sick, who's healthy. I mean, we've had a lot of sort of crazy moments waiting to see who can play and who's getting warmed up and who injured himself in warm-ups. But that was insane. Darnell Wright getting on an airplane Sunday morning and winding up in San Francisco at whatever, 9 a.m.
Waking up in Chicago at 4:30 in the morning and then getting on a private plane chartered by the Bears with a Bears training staff member, flying to San Francisco, being transported to Santa Clara, and still getting there in time to play right tackle in a way that it wasn't obvious if he was impaired. He played a solid game under the circumstances. And then there were as many as 8 Bears players who were on the injured list at one point or another with an illness. And Mully, as you watched it unfold down the stretch, you thought, this could be the Bears version of the flu game. This could be the game where everybody overcomes the flu and they win, and it was so close. But Darnell Wright gets credit. DJ Moore also was sick, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, there were a ton of guys that were in and out of the lineup all week, and it was pretty extraordinary that you got the kind of performances you got. Listen, the defense, we'll have to get into it, but that was a nightmare. That was the defense made one play to start the game, and you thought, hey, look at this, and that was it. That was really a rough night for the defense.
A lot to work with.
There was a lot to get better
learn from.
At.
A lot
no question.
A lot of examples against a playoff caliber offense, a proven commodity at quarterback.
Yes.
Certainly, though, they were playing without George Kittle and Trent Williams.
Well, imagine if they had blockers, what that would have looked like.
Imagine if they had protection. And
Holy cow.
The Bears have two really big problems defensively, stopping the run and rushing the passer.
Yeah,
that gives you pause when you're looking at the big picture. And yet, in past years, and actually in current days, you want to have an offense that can match the game's best offenses series for series. And let's face it, this was an NFL record last night. Tied at 7, tied at 14, 21, 28, 35.
Unbelievable.
This was like a ping pong match. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the Bears were able to keep up with a team that was scoring at a breakneck pace.
Marty Supreme.
Yes, it was.
Wasn't that the name of the movie?
Yes, it was.
Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet.
Ping pong. Yeah, I listen, it was an extraordinary game. I don't know if I should ask this question or not. I may as well.
Ask it.
Do you believe that was the kind of game we've been expecting from Caleb Williams? Did that seem like almost an arrival of sorts with 330 passing yards, a couple touchdowns, a 100-plus QB rating? I mean, that Caleb Williams can make every throw in case there was ever any doubt.
He kept them in that game.
He was unbelievable.
And to answer your question, I suppose I'd answer it this way. You want to know if you have a quarterback capable of doing that.
Yes.
You want to know if you have a player who can just have a game in which his sheer ability gives you a feeling that you're always going to be in it. and the great ones give you that. I don't think you want to make a living this way.
Oh, I agree.
You can't make a living this way and still be a viable playoff contender, because I think that it's too much reliant on hero ball. And the Bears last night needed him to be Superman too often. He's not going to be a guy that throws for 330 on a regular basis.
But, I mean...
But knowing he can, it's a great feeling to have.
That was pretty incredible. That was a pretty awesome performance. And the way they came back repeatedly.
Especially without two of your receivers in Rome Odunze and Olamide Zaccheaus, who has become a guy they had a good chemistry with. And it was the emergence of Luther Bird on a national stage.
And DJ Moore was ill. He did not have a big game.
Credit to him.
You know who had a great game was Loveland.
Colston Loveland.
I know he dropped one at the end of the game.
First one of the season. First drop of the 2025 season.
That was a phenomenal performance.
But he is so dependable. And Mully, he's a mismatch machine. The best play of the night was not... Well, I mean, you could pick...
Yeah, there's so many of them.
For Loveland, the offsides, throw it down the field, let's catch a touchdown pass. That was great.
Sensational.
But I was more impressed, I guess, by the fact late in the game, Ben Johnson got the mismatch that he wanted.
On the left side.
Noticed the safeties were coming at the line of scrimmage, creeping up to stop the run. Found the mismatch with the linebacker, and Caleb Williams put the ball only where it could be.
Yeah, it was something special. It really was. You know, Caleb, if you doubted whether he was going to be, a great quarterback, I felt like he answered that question. Had that last play worked, that would have been a resounding answer to that.
Can you imagine the conversations this morning nationally?
Point.
The Bears nationally already had curried a lot of favor over the past week since beating the Packers on that Saturday night. They became immediately, it seemed, NFL darlings on the national stage. And from all of the talk shows, it was what Ben Johnson was doing, his sit down with Tony Dungy, all the respect they had earned. Had they won that game last night, it would have been just even a greater sense of that. But I don't think it was a terrible loss. It was not demoralizing in a way that it could have been. And you look at what they were able to prove, or at least suggest, that this is a team that can compete in a shootout.
That's unbelievable.
And didn't you wonder that about when have we seen a Bears team that we could say that about heading into the playoffs? Yeah. It's been a very long time.
It has been a very long time, and it was it was really an excellent back and forth game, as you said, NFL record. It's a pity that that they had to settle for a field goal at one point, because other than that, it was all touchdowns.
I loved when Ben Johnson decided to go for it on 4th and 5. And it was, I think, a recognition that you were not going to, it was in the second half, maybe late in the third quarter, that you were not going to, 33 seconds left in the fourth quarter, 4th and 5 at the 49 or 26.
Loveland again, right?
Loveland for 13 yards. Yeah. You knew then Ben Johnson understood how the game is played today.
Yeah.
He was not going to settle for a field goal because you weren't going to win that way.
Tell you what, I mean, those were two excellent coaches calling plays and going back and forth. It was pretty extraordinary. Kyle Shanahan is an awful good football coach. Ben Johnson, excellent football coach. I thought that element of the game was pretty spectacular. I mean, you kind of felt it was going to be a shootout fairly early. Mm-hmm. There was no surprise when you got through the first quarter and you realized
when they bounced back,
going crazy.
When Brock Purdy rebounded from the pick six with like it never happened.
Right.
And he wasn't phased and he wasn't rattled. If you hadn't seen much of the 49ers in recent weeks or years, you're like, well, he's grown up pretty fast.
He's the MVP of December. He's had a really big month of December, and he was out earlier in the year. And you remember when people thought, just leave Mac Jones in there. You don't need that guy.
He hasn't lost.
Yeah.
Mac Jones was, as you could give him credit, but I think he was as much of a product of the system as any quarterback you're going to see. And
I got to be honest with you, David, I kind of thought for a number of years that maybe Brock Purdy was part of that.
He benefits from it still. Yeah. But I think you have to give him credit for developing that confidence and that accuracy that we talk about so often. He throws balls that are catchable balls in stride. He gives his receivers time, especially Christian McCaffrey. And you look at Brock Purdy and you see his confidence growing down to the point where he did that annoying celebration.
We have a few different texters wanting to know the status of Luther Burden III. He left the game. He looked like he was injured on the final play of the game. Apparently, he talked to the media, and that is usually an indication that the injury is not that serious. But he had a hell of a night himself. He had what did he get?
8 for 131.
Yeah,
and
8 catches out of 9 targets for 138 yards.
38, excuse me. Yes, 138. He had the touchdown.
Yes.
He came through in a big way. He had to drop himself, but he was targeted. He was targeted enough to be the impact guy in place of Roma Dunze, and he was somebody with whom Caleb Williams. He's developing quite a chemistry.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to think of, a big breakout game for Loveland, a big breakout game for Luther Burden, a big breakout game for Caleb Williams. Those are guys that are roughly the same age.
Well, let's look at...
Caleb a year older than him, but that's pretty spectacular. Class older than him.
We talk about the Ben Johnson effect, and I don't know if it was blame or responsibility, but we assigned both to Ben Johnson when they drafted Luther Burden and Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
Because they were guys, these are Ben Johnson guys, and Ben Johnson is calling the shots at Hallis Hall because if not, they wouldn't get these 2 offensive weapons.
If not, you wouldn't have seen the celebration when they got Luther Burden.
Exactly.
That was unbelievable.
Exactly.
That was bigger than when Loveland was drafted.
And we're like, you know what, they needed this and they needed that. They did. Likely, but they also needed the kind of weapons necessary to compete in today's NFL. And last night showed you that Ben Johnson understands what's needed to compete in today's NFL. He's got the weapons. They've got the game plan. Now they just have to let it all fall into place. The Bears did not look overmatched. Like I said, in the measuring stick game, they measured up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say it was a measuring stick game, and they did. They did get that thing all the way to the last play of the game. It's just a pity that it went awry at that point, but that's to be expected. The weird thing, and I don't know. I'm very curious what kind of texts and calls we'll get about clock management, because it seemed painfully obvious to anyone who watched that game that you could not give them the ball back. That you needed to take that thing down to the wire, which they did. Maybe the only question I would have is maybe they should have called a timeout when they got the ball to the 30, and instead they ran another play for a few yards, then called the timeout. That might have burned more clock.
Down the stretch in the final minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, the final minute you looked at and you're like, you wish that they seemed a little bit rushed, a little bit hassled, and you just weren't quite sure exactly if that was the plan. And you wanted to see more evidence.
They knew what they were doing, though.
They definitely did.
They did not want to give that ball back.
They did not want to because you couldn't afford to.
No,
and down the stretch, once they got they converted the 4th and 5. Well, that was okay. So they had a couple different conversions on the final play.
Yes.
Or on the final series.
Sequence, yes.
And Loveland had another conversion. And you look at, the hook and ladder, the beautiful play, designed well, executed well, and it just stopped at the 2-yard line. I think they felt like that was going to score. And then they were a little bit rattled, and they didn't have a timeout left. But I think they just ran out of seconds. I do like the fact that when they got the ball back with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, even Chris Collinsworth alluded to this, and I think you even texted, they have the 49ers right where they wanted them. In a way, you would have preferred in that case to be the trail team. Sounds absurd, but having the lead felt tenuous.
Yes.
And you had the ball with 2:15 left, and you have the resume of having 6 games where you won in the final 2 minutes when trailing. And here you were again, ready to author another script that was Hollywood-esque. And you were able to move the ball and be 1 snap short of getting your 7th victory under those circumstances.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. The end of that game was, the relief you must have felt if you were in the crowd there. I don't know that it was celebration, but to the Niners' credit, they now play Seattle for the number 1 seed, and they could conceivably be home for the playoffs.
Ramifications.
Right?
They maintained a hold on their own destiny.
Yes.
And they can create the reality that they never have to leave home to win it all.
Yeah.
All
Pretty
roads
spectacular.
to the Super Bowl literally go through Santa Clara.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
They can get the bye. They can play 2 playoff games in San Francisco at home at Levi Stadium.
Super Bowl
and then have the preparations and sleep in their own beds and play the Super Bowl against whoever comes out of the AFC. And that's still very – and if that's the case, that will be a hard team to bet against.
Did you see Fred Warner is threatening to come back?
I see he wants to come back.
That seems insane to
That
me.
would be excessive.
Don't you think that's crazy?
I think it's crazy, and yet we have seen crazier things.
Yeah.
Or we're talking in a season where a 44-year-old grandpa came back and quarterbacked the Colts. They haven't won a game, but he did play well.
That was
Phillip
emotional.
Rivers.
He basically said his goodbye because he's not going to play. They're out of the playoffs. He's not going to play a game at age 44 in front of a younger player, and where you're talking development and all that sort of thing. So he basically said his goodbyes, and it was tough to see. I mean, I think he really, it's a pity that he lost his run for the Hall of Fame, but I feel like it almost, I know it's 5 more years, but it almost clarified that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Not that anyone needed that.
I think he enhanced his candidacy.
Yes.
Because when you come back and you affect the game in a way that he did, and yes, it's just attention or publicity, but what he was able to do, and it just proved how special of a right arm he's had.
Yes.
The impact on the game and respect he commands. Phillip Rivers was brought back in a way that not every quarterback could be brought back. He brought back because he could fit into any situation. And
it was quite amazing that he played as well as he did, and that he could basically call his own offense when he was out there.
He could do that. He was a coach in the huddle.
Yes.
His right arm lacked the velocity. He was like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball pitcher hitting 91.
Did you see Nolan Ryan over the weekend? Took part in a thing and threw 85-mile-an-hour.
I did not see that.
Nolan Ryan. How old is Nolan Ryan? He's got to be in his 60s or something.
Nolan
threw an 85-mile-an-hour fastball.
Are you serious?
I saw that. Maybe it was a scam, but I saw that and I just laughed out loud.
Oh, my gosh. Well, if he was able to do that at 78 years old.
Is he 78?
Yes, that means he's got about 7 good years left in him, and he might be eligible for a Cubs $5 million contract.
Wow. There you go.
I mean,
that's a shot
if he
across
throws
the
it
mouth.
for velocity, then he can come aboard with all the other guys who they're giving experimental chances and opportunities.
That's pretty wild.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Oh, boy. We got to get to that.
But Nolan Ryan, man, that's crazy.
It didn't make an ounce of sense. It was just like, wow. I mean, I guess once you have it, you never lose it.
Again, inspired probably by Phillip Rivers.
Who knows?
Phillip Rivers, that's a word, though. It was inspirational.
He was inspirational. And I think, David, that I don't believe he was going to get into the Hall of Fame this year. Like, I don't believe he cost himself the Hall of Fame. I think he kind of emphasized that he belongs in the Hall of Fame in a way. I think he'll be rewarded. He might be a first ballot Hall of Famer in another 5 years.
Yeah.
Because people will feel like he was owed it.
I think that he also reminded people, because of every time that he was on the field, you were like, he was that good for that long? Wow. And they maybe reconsider his career and how impactful he actually was, even though he wasn't a playoff quarterback.
Right.
He wasn't traditionally making the most news in January the way a lot of quarterbacks have. And he wasn't on a team that traditionally was in the thick of the playoff race, much like, in contrast, the 49ers. That's why when you saw the 49ers last night at home, that was a legacy team. That's a team that traditionally you stack yourself up against. And they have had that kind of playoff success with Purdy and with Shanahan.
Yes.
And when the Bears were able to match them series for series, you were more encouraged than devastated afterward.
Purdy has been to a Super Bowl, which is pretty extraordinary when you think about kind of his own. I mean, listen, the guy is unbelievably accurate, and he works the middle of the field, which a lot of people are afraid to do. But it's, you always felt with those Niners teams that because his contract was so inexpensive, he allowed them to be great all over the field. And now we're in an era where they drafted a lot of defensive players, but they've had a bunch of guys go down. They've had tons of injuries, and they still are alive with a shot at the number 1 seed. And you think of Purdy differently than you did then.
You really do.
After the last month.
You really do. He has gained that kind of respect because he has, I think, achieved that sort of play. He's mastered that offense, if you could.
Yes.
And it's a great marriage. And this is also the big takeaway. You mentioned about Caleb Williams and then Ben Johnson, but when you see that quarterback coach alignment and symmetry, you see it in San Francisco. It took years to develop and maybe get to the point where Brock Purdy is more than just a game manager. Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, you can see are on the same type of track. I think that's one of the bigger takeaways.
That's the most exciting takeaway from this year. You want to play it out. You want to see where it goes. It looks, David, like the Detroit Lions, their window closed on them.
It looks like the Ben Johnson-Jared Goff marriage.
Yes.
It looks like, I'm sorry, you do see last night with 330 yards against the 49ers on the road. It looks like Purdy and Shanahan. It looks like Stafford McVay. It looks like Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yes.
The Bears have one of those marriages in football that make a difference.
It feels that way now, and I'm not sure it felt that way for much of the year, but that was one of the major takeaways is that, they got the guy. I mean, look what he can do. Could he have done that at the beginning of the year? Not a chance.
I think he's playing with a lot more command of the offense.
He's always had confidence, but he is wildly confident.
Well, here's what I've noticed a difference, and we're not in those huddles and we're not on the field, but it looks like the command he takes, he's calling plays with authority.
Yes.
He is not a guy, and he's at the line of scrimmage, and he's comfortable behind center.
Yes.
And he's lifted his leg, and he's motioning the guy, and he is definitely in charge of every detail. And when the quarterback of any offense that Ben Johnson has designed is mastering the details, well, he's got the talent. That was maybe all that was missing. And now it seems to all come together, and it's scary. And what the result is, being able to score 38 points on a national stage like last night, you fall short, but you don't feel that you're overmatched, and you feel ready for the playoffs because you know that you can make some noise.